Oh my, it's hot today. Whew, this room is sweltering hot, my friends. So you might be able to see the beginnings of sweat dripping down my forehead. You can see it's kind of glowy there. Ugh, it is hot in here. But I'm here to read to you another chapter or two or three, depending on how much I can handle this heat. Of the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane. So I hope that you've all had a great day. I had a great meeting with those of you who met with me this morning, and an even better meeting, if you will, with my friend Paisley. We had a one-on-one today, and we learned all about two types of syllables, open and closed. And so to me, it was a perfectly fine day. And I love the heat, by the way. I love the sun. But it's hot in here. Whew. Hot. Okay. So we left off last night with Edward finding his way out of the trash heap, the garbage heap, out from underneath Ernest's garbage heap, the king of the garbage. And a dog had him and ran off with him. And we now know that this dog's name is Lucy. And Lucy is the pet of a traveling kind of vagabond, if you will. Someone might call him a hobo. In fact, I think that's what Edward calls him or thinks of him as, a hobo. More like a traveling vagabond, someone who's just on their own, out underneath the stars. You know that. You probably don't know that song. I was just going to say, you know that song called The Vagabond by Rafe Vaughan Williams, but maybe you don't. I know it. Give to me the life I love, let the lay go by me. Yum pa dum ta da da da, and the stars be nigh me. You don't know this. With stars, still don't know. There's a life for a man like me. There's the life forever. It's the Vagabond song. It kind of has a march feel, like somebody walking down the road. Not interested. All right, maybe you will one of these days. But let it be known that I introduced it to you, The Vagabond. It's actually part of a song cycle, which is really beautiful. There's some beautiful music in there. Anyhow, so he's with the vagabond, the hobo, and his name is Bill. Let's get started. Chapter 13. Here we go. They traveled on foot. They traveled in empty rail cars, but they were always on the move. But in truth, said Bull, oh, Bull, not Bill, Bull, we are going nowhere. That, my friend, is the irony of our constant movement. Edward rode in Bull's bedroll, slung over Bull's shoulder with only his head and ears sticking out. Bull was always careful to position the rabbit so that he was not looking down or up, but was instead forever looking behind him at the road that they had just traveled. In fact, I have a picture. Let me put it up for you. This is the image that you should be thinking of as I'm reading to you. Bull, not Bill. It's too hot here. Let me get that up for you. Let's see here. Where is that picture? Oh, here it is, my friends. There it is. So here's Bull traveling down the road, this vagabond. And here is Edward in the bedroll, looking backwards, so he can see the road they've traveled on. At night, they slept on the ground under the stars. Lucy, after her initial disappointment about Edward being unfit for consumption, took a liking to him and slept curled up beside him. And sometimes she even rested her muzzle on his china stomach. And then the noises she made in her sleep, whimpering and growling and chuffing, resonated inside Edward's body. And to his surprise, he began to feel a deep tenderness for the dog. During the night, while Bull and Lucy slept, Edward, with his ever-open eyes, stared up at the constellations. He said their names, and then he said the names of the people who loved him. And he started with Abilene. And then he went to Nellie and Lawrence, and from there to Bull and Lucy. And then he ended again with Abilene. Abilene, Nellie, Lawrence, Bull, Lucy, Abilene. See, Edward told Pellegrina, I'm not like the princess. I know about love. There were times, too, when Bull and Lucy gathered around a campfire with other tramps, another word for vagabonds or hobos. Bull was a good storyteller and even a better singer. Kind of sounds like somebody I know. Sing for us, Bull, the men shouted. Bull sat with Lucy leaning against his leg and Edward balanced on his right knee. And he sang from somewhere deep inside himself. And just as Edward could feel Lucy's whimpers and growls resonate through his body at night, he could also feel the deep, sad sound of Bull's songs move through him. Edward loved when Bull sang. And he was grateful to Bull, too, for sensing that a dress was not the right kind of clothing for Edward. Malone, said Bull one night, it's not my desire to offend you or to comment negatively on your choice of garb, but I'm forced to tell you that you stick out like a sore thumb in that princess dress. And also, again, with no wish to offend you, the dress has seen better days. Nellie's beautiful dress had not fared well at the dump or in its subsequent ramblings with Bull and Lucy. It was so torn and dirty and full of holes that it barely resembled the dress anymore. I have a solution, said Bull, and I hope that it meets with your approval. He took his own knit stocking cap and cut a big hole in the top of it, and 2 small holes on the sides of it, and then he took off Edward's dress. Look away, Lucy, he said to the dog. Let's not embarrass Malone by staring at his nakedness. Bull slid the hat over Edward's head and pulled it down and poked his arms through the smaller holes. There you go, he said to Edward. Now you just need some pants. The pants Bull made himself, cutting up several red handkerchiefs and sewing them together so that they formed a makeshift covering for Edward's long legs. Now you have the proper outlaw look, said Bull, standing back to admire his work. Now you look like a rabbit on the run. Chapter 14. At first, the others thought that Edward was a great good joke. A rabbit, the hobo said, laughing. Let's chop him up and put him in a stew pot. Or when Bull sat with Edward, carefully balanced on his knee, one of them would call out, Got yourself a little dolly, Bull. Edward, of course, felt a surge of anger at being referred to as a dolly, but Bull never got angry. He simply sat with Edward on his knee and said nothing. Soon the men became accustomed to Edward, and word of his existence spread. So it was that when Bull and Lucy stepped up to a campfire in another town, another state, another place entirely, the men knew Edward and were glad to see him. Malone! They shouted in unison. And Edward felt a warm rush of pleasure at being recognized, at being known. Whatever it was that had begun in Nellie's kitchen, Edward's new and strange ability to sit very still and concentrate the whole of his being on the stories of another, became invaluable around the hobo campfire. "Look at Malone," said a man named Jack one evening. "He's listening to every dang word." "Certainly," said Bull. "Of course he is." Well, later that night, Jack came and sat next to Bull and asked if he could borrow the rabbit. Bull handed Edward over, and Jack sat with Edward upon his knee, and he whispered in Edward's ear. "Helen," Jack said. "Helen and Jack Jr. and Taffy. She's the baby. Those are my kids' names. They're all in North Carolina. You ever been to North Carolina? It's a pretty state. That's where they are. Helen, Jack Jr., and Taffy. You remember their names, okay, Malone?" Well, after this, wherever Bull and Lucy and Edward went, some tramp would take Edward aside and whisper the names of his children in Edward's ear. Betty, Ted, Nancy, William, Jimmy, Eileen, Skipper, Faith. Edward knew what it was like to say over and over again the names of those you had left behind. He knew what it was like to miss someone, and so he listened. And in his listening, his heart opened wide and then wider still. The rabbit stayed lost with Lucy and Bull for a long time. Almost 7 years passed. And in that time, Edward became an excellent tramp, happy to be on the road, restless when he was still. The sound of the wheels on the train tracks became a music that soothed him. He could have ridden the rails forever. But one night, in a rail yard in Memphis, as Bull and Lucy slept in an empty freight car and Edward kept watch, trouble arrived. A man entered the freight car and shone a flashlight in Bull's face, and then kicked him awake. "You bum," he said. "You dirty bum. I'm sick of you guys sleeping everywhere. This ain't no motel." Bull sat up slowly. Lucy started to bark. "Shut up," said the man, and he delivered a swift kick to Lucy's side that made her yelp in surprise. All his life, Edward had known what he was, a rabbit made of china, a rabbit with bendable arms and legs and ears. He was bendable, though, only if he was in the hands of another. He could not move himself. And he had never regretted this more deeply than he did that night when he and Bull and Lucy were discovered in the empty rail car. Because Edward wanted to be able to defend Lucy, but he could do nothing. He could only lie there and wait. "Say something," said the man to Bull. And Bull put up his hands in the air and he said, "We're lost." "Lost? Ha! You bet you're lost." And then the man said, "What's this?" And he shone the light on Edward. "That's Malone," said Bull. "What the heck?" said the man, and he poked at Edward with the toe of his boot. "Things are out of control. Things are out of hand. Not on my watch, no, sir. Not when I'm in charge." And the train suddenly lurched in motion. "No, sir," said the man again. "No, sir." And he looked down at Edward. "No free rides for rabbits." And he turned and flung open the door of the rail car. And then he turned back, and with one swift kick, he sent Edward sailing out into the darkness. The rabbit flew through the air. From far behind him, he heard Lucy's anguished howl. "Oh, oh," she cried. Edward landed with a most alarming thump. And then he tumbled and tumbled and tumbled down a long and dirty hill. When he finally stopped moving, he was on his back, staring up at the night sky. The world was silent. He could hear nothing, not even Lucy. He could not hear the train. Edward looked up at the stars. He started to say the names of the constellations, but then he stopped. Bull, his heart said. Lucy. How many times, Edward wondered, would he have to leave without getting the chance to say goodbye? A lone cricket started up a song. Edward listened. Something deep inside him ached. He wished that he could cry. Oh, that is sad. That kind of reminds me of how I felt after school was let out. Just didn't have that chance to really say goodbye. Things are better now. I can see you, I can talk to you. But poor Edward, all of these people who come in and out of his life, some of them stay for a while, some of them are just a few moments. And here he is again, all alone and away from the people that love him and from the people that he loved back. Whoa. What a book. What a story. I can't wait to read the next few chapters for you on Monday night. I don't think I'll read tomorrow, but gotta find out where Edward is going next. What a miraculous and somewhat discouraging and frustrating journey so far. Okay, boys and girls, you know what time it is. It's time for you to brush those teeth, to wash those hands, wash that face. I'm going to wash mine with cold water tonight because it is hot and I'm not lucky enough to have the comforts of air conditioning in my home. So I'm going to be sleeping under a fan with the bedroom window open. Hopefully I can get a breeze to come through. Although outside, it's perfectly still. There's not a breeze anywhere. So I think tonight's going to be quite stifling in my bedroom. I hope you can sleep well. Make sure you tell everyone you love them before you head to bed. And tomorrow, be a better you. You might have been a great you today, but tomorrow be a better you. That's what I'm going to try to do. Yeah. All right. Over and out, my friends.